Starting this July, 3 changes are quietly landing on America's seniors, and every single one of them is built to pull money straight out of your pockets. Not next year, not someday, this month. One of them can take a slice of your Social Security check before it ever reaches your bank account. One of them lets the government reach in and hold back half of your monthly benefit even when the mistake was never yours. And the third one, the one almost nobody is talking about, can quietly cut off help that millions of older Americans quietly depend on to put food on the table. Here is what makes this dangerous. Every one of these changes was written to happen in the background. No letter in big bold print, no phone call, no warning from anyone. You are supposed to find out when your check comes in, smaller than it is supposed to be. And by then, the money is already gone. My name is Walter Barron. I am an estates attorney, and I have spent years sitting across the table from families who found out about a rule like this 1 month too late. My job on this channel is simple. I read the fine print so you do not have to, and I tell you in plain English exactly what is changing and exactly what you can do about it. Because here is the part they never tell you. For all 3 of these changes, there is a legal way to protect yourself, but only if you know it is coming. So stay with me, whether you are 62 or 82, whether you are still working or fully retired, because at least one of these 3 is going to touch someone you love. And the third one is the one I want you to pay the closest attention to, because it is the one people never see coming until it is already done. Let us start with the first change, and it is a big one. Beginning this July, the federal government can once again take money directly out of your Social Security check to pay off an old student loan. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. Walter, I am 70 years old. I do not have a student loan. And you might be right. But before you skip ahead, listen closely, because this one is catching people completely off guard for 2 reasons. The first reason is that this had been paused for years, so almost everyone forgot it was even possible. During the pandemic, the government hit the pause button on collecting defaulted federal student loans, and that pause quietly held for a long time. A lot of people assumed the debt had simply gone away. It did not. It was sitting there the whole time, and now the machine that collects it is being switched back on. The second reason is the one that really stings. It is not just people who took out loans for themselves. It is grandparents and parents who co-signed or who took out what are called Parent Plus loans to help a child or a grandchild get through school. That loan has your name on it. If it went into default, the government treats it as your debt, and your Social Security is on the table to pay it. Here's how it actually works. It runs through something called the Treasury Offset Program. When a federal student loan is in default, the Treasury can garnish your Social Security. They can take up to 15% of your monthly benefits. There is one guardrail, and it is important. They are supposed to leave you with at least $750 a month. But think about what that really means. If your check is, say, $1,200, 15% is $180 gone every single month before you ever see it. On a fixed income, $180 is the light bill. It is the groceries. It is the copay. Let me make this real for you. Picture a woman, 68 years old, retired, living on a modest Social Security check. Years ago, she co-signed a loan so her grandson could go to college. He struggled, the loan fell behind, and life moved on. She has not thought about that loan in a decade. Then 1 month, her check comes in almost $200 short with no real explanation. She did not do anything wrong that month. Nothing changed in her life. The only thing that changed is that a switch got flipped in an office in Washington. That is how quietly this happens. And this is not a handful of people. The estimates put it at around 450,000 Social Security recipients who could be exposed to this once the collection switched back on. Many of them are retirees living on that check and nothing else. So, here is what you do, and I want you to write this down. Do not just wait for the smaller check to show up. If you have any federal student debt in your name, including a Parent Plus loan for a kid or a grandkid, you have real options, and most people never use them. The first option is financial hardship. You can apply to the Department of Education to stop the garnishment on the grounds that taking that money would leave you unable to cover your basic living expenses. And here is the number that shocked me. According to the government's own consumer watchdog, roughly 82% of Social Security recipients with a defaulted federal student loan would actually qualify for that hardship relief. 82%. The relief is sitting right there, and almost nobody claims it, simply because they do not know to ask. The second option is to get the loan out of default entirely, either through what is called loan rehabilitation, where you make a series of small agreed-upon payments, or through consolidation. Once the loan is out of default, the garnishment stops. Your Social Security is protected again. The point is this. This is not a lock you cannot pick, but the door only opens if you act before or right when that check starts shrinking. Call the loan servicer, ask about hardship and rehabilitation, and do it now while you still have the full check in your hands. Which brings me to the second change. If the first one made you a little nervous, this one is going to make you sit up, because this one does not care whether you have any debt at all. Starting now, the Social Security Administration can hold back up to half of your entire monthly check to recover what they call an overpayment. Let me explain what an overpayment even is, because most people misunderstand it. An overpayment is when Social Security decides that at some point they paid you more than they should have. Maybe your income changed. Maybe a benefit was recalculated. Maybe a form got processed late. And here is the part that makes people furious, and rightly so. Very often, the overpayment was not caused by you at all. It was caused by their own error, their own math, their own paperwork, and yet you are the one they come to collect from. For years, this was handled gently. Under the previous approach, when they clawed back an overpayment, they took only about 10% of your monthly check while you paid it down. 10% stings, but you can live around it. That is over. Earlier this year, the agency moved to reinstate a far more aggressive rate. They first announced they would take 100% your entire check until the debt was cleared. After a public outcry, they settled on 50%. Half. Sit with that for a second. Half of your Social Security check held back potentially for months to pay for a mistake you may not have made. For someone living on that check, half is not an inconvenience. Half is a crisis. I have seen how this lands on a real person. Imagine a man 71 who gets a plain-looking envelope in the mail. Inside is a notice saying he was overpaid 3 years ago and that they intend to recover it by holding back half of his check starting soon. He reads it 3 times. He never got a raise. He never hid income. As far as he can tell, if anyone made a mistake, it was them, not him. And yet the letter is not asking. It is telling. That feeling, that mix of confusion and fear, is exactly what 2 million families are about to sit with. And most of them will assume there is nothing they can do. That assumption is the most expensive mistake of all. And this is not rare. As of the government's own recent accounting, close to 2 million beneficiaries had been overpaid, adding up to around $23 billion. That is a lot of letters going out and a lot of checks about to get cut in half. But here is the good news. And this is why I need you to know your rights. You are not helpless in front of an overpayment notice. There are 3 specific moves, and they work. Move 1. The moment you get an overpayment notice, understand that there is a window, generally around 90 days before they actually start withholding. Do not ignore that window. That window is your protection. Move 2. If you cannot afford to lose that much of your check, you can ask them to take less. There is a form for exactly this. It is the request for a lower rate of withholding. You tell them what you can actually afford, say 10% instead of 50%, and you can bring that check back up close to whole while you sort it out. Move 3, and this is the big one. If you believe the overpayment was not your fault, or you simply do not believe you were overpaid at all, you can appeal it and you can request a waiver. When you file that appeal in time, it can actually pause the collection while they review your case. And the waiver says plainly, this was not my fault and I cannot afford to pay it back. Please forgive it. People win these, but only the people who file them. So, if one of those notices ever lands in your mailbox, do not panic and do not throw it away. It is not a final verdict. It is the start of a conversation, and you have far more power in that conversation than they want you to realize. Now, before I get to the third change, the one I told you almost nobody sees coming, I want to take 30 seconds because so many of you have asked me to put all of this in one place. Everything I cover on this channel, the Social Security traps, the property tax breaks most seniors never claim, the bank moves nobody explains, the exact forms and the exact steps, I put it all into one plain English guide. It is called the Senior Money Playbook. It is written for a person, not for a lawyer. So you can actually read it and use it. And it walks you through the moves that protect your money and the money you may be leaving on the table. It is the same guidance I would give my own parents. If you want it, the link is in the description below. Take a look after the video. All right, the third change. This is the one I really did not want to bury because it is the quietest of the three and it is going to catch the most people by surprise. Starting this July, the rules for food assistance are changing in a way that pulls in a whole group of older Americans who used to be protected. I am talking about SNAP, the program most people still think of as food stamps. For a long time, there was a work requirement attached to it for younger adults, but older adults were exempt. If you were in your late 50s or your early 60s, you did not have to prove you were working to keep your food help. That exemption is what is being stripped away. Under the new law, that protected age is being pushed all the way up. Adults who are not otherwise exempt now have to meet a work requirement to keep their benefits. And that requirement now reaches people right up to age 65. In practice, that means a large group of Americans in their late 50s and early 60s, people who assumed they were past all this, now have to document 80 hours a month of work or approved job training or volunteering to keep the food assistance they have been relying on. 80 hours a month is about 20 hours a week. For someone who is 62, maybe in poor health, maybe caring for a spouse, maybe already pushed out of the workforce, that is not a small ask. Think of a woman 63 who left her job to care for a husband with dementia. She is not retired in any comfortable sense. She is working around the clock, just not for a paycheck. She has counted on that food help to stretch what little comes in. Under the old rules, her age protected her. Under the new rules, unless she files the right exemption, she is expected to go find 20 hours a week of work or lose the help. And the projections are sobering. Analysts estimate that more than 1 million older adults in that 55 to 64 range could lose their food assistance because of the shift. But, and this matters, the exemptions did not all disappear. There are still real protections. And this is where knowing the rules saves you. You may still be exempt if you are medically unable to work. You may still be exempt if you are caring for a dependent, like a young grandchild you're raising, or an incapacitated family member. If you receive disability benefits, SSI, or Social Security disability, that is generally an exemption. And once you actually reach 65, the full exemption returns. So, here is your move. If you or someone in your family is in that late 50s to mid 60 seconds window and relies on food assistance, do not wait for a letter that cuts you off. Contact your state SNAP office. Ask them directly which exemption applies to your situation and get the documentation in on time. A doctor's note, proof that you are a caregiver, proof of your disability benefits. The exemption is only good if it is on file. The people who lose their benefits are almost never the people who did not qualify to keep them. They are the people who qualified but never turned in the paperwork. So, let us pull this together because I want you to walk away with the whole picture, not just 3 scary headlines. 3 changes are hitting this July, and they share one thing in common. They are all designed to move quietly. The student loan garnishments, up to 15% of your Social Security, switching back on for hundreds of thousands of people, including grandparents who co-signed. The overpayment clawback, up to half of your monthly check, often for a mistake that was never yours. And the food assistance work rule, now reaching all the way to 65, pulling the rug out from under a group that used to be protected. But you are not powerless in front of any of them. For the student loan garnishments, there is hardship relief that most people qualify for and never claim. For the overpayments, there is a window, a lower rate request, and an appeal and waiver that can pause and even erase it. And for the food assistance rule, there are exemptions that still stand if you file for them in time. The single most important thing I can tell you is this. The people who get hurt by these changes are almost never the people who had no options. They are the people who did not know the options existed until the money was already gone. That is the entire game. These rules count on you not paying attention. So paying attention today is how you win. Please understand, this is general education, not legal or financial advice for your specific situation. And the details of how each of these rules is applied can vary and can change. Always confirm your own case with the Social Security Office, the Department of Education, or your state benefits office before you act. But now, you know what is coming, and you know the moves. Do me one favor. Think of one person in your life over the age of 60 who is living on a fixed income, and send them this video. One of these three changes could be about to hit their check, and they almost certainly have not heard a word about it. You could be the reason they keep their money. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.